I'm Jacob Hornberger, president of the Future of Freedom Foundation. One of the most unusual aspects of the Kennedy autopsy that was conducted by the U.S. military on the evening of November 22nd, 1963, was that there were two separate brain examinations. Now, why is that unusual? Well, because in most autopsies, there's only one brain examination. Here there were two. Now, mind you, the pathologists in the case, Navy Commanders Boswell and Humes and Army Colonel Fink, were all claiming that there was just one brain examination. But the staff of the Assassination Records Review Board in the 1990s determined that they had to been giving a false story about this one brain exam. Now, how did they figure that out? Well, the first reason was the timeline. There was testimony and evidence establishing that the brain examination had taken place within 2 or 3 days of the assassination and the autopsy, November 22nd, 1963. There was other evidence and testimony establishing that the brain examination actually took place about a week or more later. But even more revealing, the ARRB figured out that a third person at the first brain examination was different from a third person who attended the second brain examination. Now, there was a commonality among the two brain examinations. At the first one, it was attended by Commanders Humes and Boswell. At the second one, it was attended by Commanders Humes and Boswell. But in the first one, it was attended by John T. Stringer as the third person, and at the second one, it was attended by Colonel Fink, one of the three pathologists. Now, Stringer testified that at the first brain examination, the pathologist sectioned the brain. That means they sliced it like a loaf of bread. Standard procedure on a gunshot wound to the head. The idea is that they want to study it in order to determine the trajectory of the bullets. At the second brain examination, the brain was not sectioned. It was a regular sized brain. And there's something important to note here, that once you section a brain, you slice it into slices, it is impossible to put it back together, which means that the brain examined in the second brain examination necessarily had to belong to someone else. Now, that would not have been difficult. The autopsy was conducted on a U.S. Navy military installation, Bethesda Naval Medical Center. That was where the morgue was, and that was where Bethesda Navy Medical School was. And as we all know, in medical school, there's plenty of organs so that the medical students can practice on them. So it would not have been difficult to get a substitute brain. Here's something else to consider that's rather unusual. In an autopsy, it's standard procedure to weigh the brain. They weighed the brain in this case. Now, most everybody acknowledges that the gunshot wound that hit the president in the head blasted out about 25%, maybe even a third of his brain. And yet when they weighed the brain, it weighed more than an average person's full-size brain. How is that possible? What are we to make of all this? What are we to make of the fact that there's two separate brain examinations, one of which necessarily could not have been the president's? What are we to make of the fact that three military pathologists are giving a false story about having one brain examination? What are we to make of the fact that Sandra Spencer, U.S. Navy petty officer, testifies that the photographs in the official record are not the ones she developed on the weekend of the assassination? What are we to make of the fact that she testifies that the photographs she developed showed a big exit-size hole in the back of President Kennedy's head, which matched with what treating physicians at Dallas Parkland Hospital were saying? What are we to make of the fact that the official autopsy photographs showed the back of the president's head to be fully intact? What are we to make of the fact that a team of Secret Service agents brandished guns and threatened use of deadly force against the medical examiner of Dallas County, Texas, for doing his duty, which they prevented him from doing by force, the duty to conduct an autopsy that was required by Texas law there in Dallas? What are we to make of the fact that Lyndon Johnson was patiently waiting out on the tarmac at Dallas Love Field, having seats removed from the back of the plane, waiting for that casket to be delivered so that he could fly it to Andrews Air Force Base and put it in the hands of the military. Now, if you think all of this is mysterious, wait till you hear the story about Robert Knutson.